Hello, MavMind Collective, and welcome to another episode of the Hypnosales Show. Today, we're going to be talking about how to evaluate someone's performance. All right, if you're like me, you probably don't like evaluations at work. Like when someone evaluates your performance, it probably makes you feel uncomfortable, doesn't it? When someone's like scrutinizing on your ability to do your job, and they're just like pointing out things. And usually they try to point out things that you did well, but they also have to include things that you didn't do so well, or that you can be better at, that you can get more skill about, like get better at doing. And to me, that's always intimidating. To me, that always feels uncomfortable. And I think it's because subconsciously, it's never delivered the way that I really want it to be. It's always awkward when my boss has to talk to me and bring up the subject of something that I can get better at. So I'm going to present today what's called a skill-will evaluation method. And it's the best way I've learned to deliver an evaluation for someone on your team or your whole entire team in a very subconscious way. You're sending a subconscious message that it's safe and it's okay, and that we're just here to try to help each other get better. Okay? And it holds everyone accountable to their skill and also their willingness to do things. So that's why it's called a skill and a will. So you're not judged only on your ability to do a thing. You're also being judged and evaluated on your willingness to do a thing. So that way everybody always has a mix of those two things. And therefore subconsciously it's always a lot more comfortable. It feels a lot more safer. And therefore it's a more positive experience for you and your team when you use this method. It's more effective too, because you end up getting the behaviors and you get the skill sets you need to create an effective team over time. Okay, so it's called skill will, and it's based on evaluating skill versus their willingness. So the first bullet here says rate their skills. What does that mean? It means you come up with a list of 10 different skills, or 12 or whatever, but not more than that. Just some handfuls of skills, something you can describe each skill that you want them to have in that particular role that you're evaluating them on. And each role should have a different set of skills, because each role is different. So for every role, you have a set of 10 or 12 skills, and each skill is described in one sentence. Okay? Don't use 3, 4, 5 like a paragraph to describe a skill. If that's the case, break it into different skills, one line each. Okay, just keep it simple, keep it easy. Again, you want to make your team feel comfortable with the evaluation process, so keep it really simple so it's easy for them to understand and to know what the skill is you're specifically referring to on each of these 10 or 12 different skills. And then you have them rate themselves for each skill from 1 to 5. 1 being that they don't really have the skill at all the way to 5 being they're an expert at having that skill. Okay, 1 to 5. Now, if you want to, you can also have 0.5 in between, so you can have 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 0.45, and 5 being the maximum. You can do it like that if you want. Sometimes that's a little bit easier. When I've delivered this in the past, sometimes my team, they want to have like a half point, because it just makes them feel like I'm not quite a 4, but I'm not a 3. I'm just a 3.5. So they feel more comfortable like being in between two numbers. So give them that opportunity, and then have them rate themselves. And then you, as their leader, rate them as well for each of the skills. Okay. Then when you meet with them one-on-one without anybody else around, then you openly share your rating with them, and you have them openly share their rating of themselves for each of these skills. And then here's where it's really cool. Subconsciously, they're expecting you to override their number. Or maybe you don't agree. Maybe they're giving themselves a 5 all the way down. I'm an expert at everything. Well, no one's really an expert at everything. I mean, maybe they could be, but typically they're not a 5 on everything. So you might need to give them a 3 or 4 or something, and talk them back down to a 4.5. Like have them back down and compromise with you and meet in the middle. Okay, to where you're not overriding them and bringing their number down, but you're also not letting them just pick whatever they want if it's unrealistic. You tell them, you share specific examples of where maybe you don't feel they're a 5, and you give them a chance to share specific examples of where they think they are a 5 or a 4 or whatever. But the idea is you want to meet them in the middle, help them to feel comfortable to kind of compromise somewhere, and you end up getting a compromise number all the way down. Now, at the end of the day, that always feels good to the employee. I mean, it always feels good to me when my boss lets me negotiate basically my score for my skill set, right? I compromise, I back down on a few high numbers, or maybe if I'm underrating myself, if I think, oh, I'm not really good, and they think I'm really good at it, I have them talk me into raising my number up to something, and then I have more confidence in that skill. Wow, I didn't know you were paying attention. Maybe I do have this skill better than I thought. Maybe I am better at it than I thought I was. So then you move your number. So whether it's bringing numbers down or moving numbers up, the idea is subconsciously you're involving them together with you to compromise on where the score is. And that's very key. It helps to feel really comfortable and it's really a positive experience when you compromise like that. Now, you get at the end of this evaluation, you have all these compromise numbers for all these skills. Then you want to average it together and come up with an average number, 3.75, 3.86, or whatever it is. Okay? And then you want to rate their willingness to do things. And you want to have 10 or 12 of those as well. Now, what is an example of a willingness to do something? Well, like for example, let's say in their role, they may occasionally, maybe once a month, have to have a Zoom call with a prospect or a customer in Japan. And they're based in the US, for example. And they have to have a call with someone in a different time zone. And it means they have to stay up late in their time zone till like 9 or 10 o'clock. So you might say, be willing to stay up late past 9 o'clock p.m. in your time zone once a month. So something really specific like that in order to be successful at their job, they sort of need to do that. Are they willing to do that? Have them rate themselves 1 to 5 of their willingness to, like if they're not willing, they'll say, 2. I'm not really willing to do that all the time, once a month, maybe every other month. So I give myself a 2, where you say, well, I need you to be at a 4. So you need to move that up, or if you're at a 2, then we'll accept that, but we'll work on trying to get your willing. So it gives you a chance to kind of coach them on where you need them to be. Or if they're like, yeah, I'm 5, I'm willing to stay up as late as I want. And you're like, yeah, but you haven't done it the last 2 times. So actually, I would say your willingness is more like a 3. So again, you're evaluating together and compromising on where the number should be based on the willingness for them to do a series of things, exhibit a series of what your capabilities is skills, and then behaviors is the willingness. Motivation is the willingness. What are they motivated to do? How motivated they are to do these different things. Okay, so that's what you're really evaluating with the willingness, is their motivation. Okay, and then again, you come up with an average number of that, and then the third bullet here, you plot it on an XY graph. You plot their 2 numbers on an x-axis and a y-axis. So it creates a grid in 4 quadrants. So 1 in the lower left-hand corner, and then 5 on the upper left-hand corner, and the lower right-hand corner is the 5. And then skills go up and down vertical, and then their willingness is horizontal on the x-axis at the bottom. And then you plot the 2 numbers, and they end up in one of these quadrants. Now, if they're 3 and 3, for both skill and will, they're going to be right dead in center of the graph. Okay. If they're low skill and low will, meaning both scores are low, then they're going to be in the lower left-hand corner of the graph. And what that means is that maybe they're not happy in their job, maybe they're not good at their job, maybe it's time that they move on to another team, or maybe you got to let them go. Like they're just not willing to do anything, and they don't want to learn anything new. They don't want to get the skills they need. So they're not working out typically if they're in the low skill, low will. If they're in the high skill, high will, meaning their upper right-hand quadrant, which is where you want everyone to be, that means they have lots of skill and they're willing to do whatever it takes. Typically, that means they're ready to be promoted into the next level. That's usually what that evaluation means when they're applying. And you can have a discussion with them about, hey, you're really high in here. You should be up for promotion. Let's see how we can move you into a higher position, because you're just executing just fantastically. You have all the skills, you're willing to do whatever it takes, and so you're ready for your next level. So that's how you kind of use that as a way to motivate them to lead and move to the next level. Now, if they're high skill but low will, then you got to motivate them. You got to have that honest conversation and say, you're very capable of doing the job, but you just don't want to do the job. You don't want to do the things. You're not willing to behave the way you need to and do the things you need to do. So we need to motivate you somehow. Right? So you figure out, will it take a positive reinforcement, like giving them a promise of a spiff or a bonus or something, money, giving them the carrot on the stick, so to speak? Or do you just need to give them the stick? Because some people are motivated by the threat of a stick, right? That, hey, if you don't get your willingness up here, then even though you have the skill and you're able to deliver on the things, skill-wise, if you're not willing to do the things we need you to do in the role, you're still not going to make it here. And so you need to motivate yourself to be willing to do these other things on this list. So you can have that honest conversation with them about what they need to be motivated to do and how best you can motivate them to do it. And usually that's a very positive experience, even in that case, and they'll tell you what it takes to motivate them. Now, if they're if they're high will but low skill, then it's a training situation, right? Because they're willing to do whatever it takes, no matter what, but they just don't know how. So you got to teach them the how. You got to provide training. You have to coach and mentor them and get them up again to the upper right-hand quadrant. Now, here's the coolest part. After you share each of the plots and have that discussion and have that positive experience sharing their evaluation, their complete evaluation of skill versus will on this graph separately with each one of them, then you want to have a team meeting where you show the entire grid with the whole team plotted anonymously. So that's the key. You don't want to put their names by each dot. Each of them will know where their dot is because you talked to them privately, you showed them where they were and you had that discussion. But when they see themselves plotted with the rest of the team, there's a subconscious dynamic that happens. It motivates those that are leaders to help those that are behind, that are low skill or low will. It helps them realize, man, I got to find out who's on the team that's low skill, low will, and I want to help them get up into the upper right-hand quadrant with myself, with the rest of the team, okay? And if they're one of the ones in the lower left hand, lower upper right hand, or upper left hand, lower right hand, they see the rest of the team in the upper right hand, they're going to be motivated subconsciously to, wow, I need to catch up with the team. This is worse than I thought. I thought some of us would be all on the outskirts here, but everyone is real over here, and I'm the only one over here. So it motivates them just naturally, subconsciously, because they see them rated next to everyone else, even though they don't know individually who's who on the grid. They just know in general, I'm behind, and I need to catch up with the rest of my team, right? So it's motivating at a very subconscious level when they see that. So this is one of the reasons why I really love the skill will method of evaluation, because again, it's very comfortable, it's easy, and it makes it really a very positive experience for the employee and for you to deliver it, and it operates at a subconscious level very effectively without anyone really even being aware that that's what's happening.
Thank you for watching. I know you find value in these videos, didn't you? Now, if you, like me, are in a customer-facing role, you want to get better every day at what you do, but you don't have to watch another video if you don't want to.